It's time for another Out of Bounds Rewind with Bo Bounds on ESPN 105.9, The Zone.
People are asking why they don't have a dominant ace, considering the program that they are. Like Hunter Elliott, like Tanner Hall. I mean, Cade's, I don't think you consider him a dominant ace in the SEC. He may be that by April 15th. Who knows? What would be your reaction to that when fans that really follow the team ask that question?
I ask the same question. I mean, I do. I mean, I think people have a valid concern there. It's like you're Mississippi State. You know, why don't you have one guy that you know is a surefire shutdown guy? And I think Cade Smith right now is probably a Saturday guy pitching on Friday because he's your best option. I do think Bradley Laughlin and Sinjay will be weekend guys. Does that happen this year? I don't know. But the reality of it is I think State has recruited exceptionally well this year. But you got to ask, you know, where were those guys to kind of bridge the gap between Landon Sims and Bednar until now? And I think that's why you're in the situation you're in last year and certainly this year. I mean, every year you always feel like you have that one guy you can count on. But I remind people, too, back in 2016, I mean, you know, Dakota Hudson had thrown a total of 12 SEC innings and ends up being an All-American. I mean, you know, there's always a guy that emerges that maybe hasn't got a big body of work. And so that's what you're kind of hoping on. But State shouldn't have to bank on that. You know, from year to year, you ought to have a guy or two that you know, hey, this is our guy. We know we've got here. Because the best teams in the country are really just trying to identify a third starter and get production from the bottom third of the lineup. If you can do that, you're a national contender. Yeah, but everybody's got to have a frontline guy. And I think at this point, you know, State's looking at this thing by committee. But I don't want to sell Cade Smith short. I mean, I think Cade Smith's a guy that you know, he's obviously not a Paul Maholm type guy, but Cade Smith's a competitor. This is a guy that's got a 3-pitch mix, and I'm interested to see what he does this week. He didn't pitch bad on Friday, but, you know, he's on a pitch count. The problem with him is going to be pitch efficiency. You know, he's got to be able to get in and out of innings, you know, 12, 15 pitches more times than not. He can't afford to have these, you know, 20, 25 pitch innings and expect to stay in ball games. It's just not going to happen.
So you expect Dom and Harden and Nixon to stay in the pen?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't. Everybody brings up Nate Dom. I know he's a competitor. Nate will do whatever you want. It's actually pronounced Dome, but
Dome.
But
okay.
The reality of it is, I just don't know that he has the stamina, you know, to go pieces to get thing together regularly. Especially a guy that, you know, max effort guy that throws 97, 98. It's not going to get you a lot of innings. I mean, but I do think when you look over the weekend, he might have been the best pitcher of the weekend. I mean, let's be honest about that. He pitched twice, and both times he was really, really good. And so I think State's really found something with him. And I think Nixon looked great yesterday, too, in the ninth. And so I think if you start thinking, if we can piece this thing together and get through the sixth with a lead, we ought to have the arms in the bullpen to close this thing out. And that was kind of the recipe back in 2021. It's just a matter of getting through, get a quality start, and then turn the thing over to the bullpen.
Don't miss one moment of the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Weekdays, 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. on ESPN 105.9, The Zone.